This is where they're finally going to have anime titties. Hopefully. We'll have to see.
The first major update for Unreal Engine 5 just released called 5.1.
I remember I was talking to my dad about Unreal 5 and how good it is. And he was just like not really being very responsive about it or whatever. And I showed him that video of, you know, like that train station, that like, Korean train station. And like people thought it was real. I showed that to him. And I said, where do you think this video was taken? And he's like, I don't know. You know, it could be anywhere, right? And I was like, yeah, it's actually in a game. He's like, what the fuck? Yeah, the Japanese one. Yeah, there you go.
Is a huge deal. The reason why is one word, and that is foliage. Since Unreal Engine 5 came out, it introduced a revolutionary new way of rendering geometry called nanite.
Okay.
To briefly sum up nanite, every object you see in computer graphics is composed of tiny flat planes of geometry called polygons.
Yeah.
And the more polygons you have in your
showed this with the first one. I remember seeing this.
environment, the longer it will take to render. This is why video games have developed a system called level of detail, or LOD for short. The further away an object is from the camera, the less polygons it will use to render that object.
New World does this a lot. If you guys ever notice this, whenever you walk away from an NPC, the texture of the NPC's armor will change.
This makes games run faster since there's less polygons that have to be rendered, but it is very time consuming to create all those LODs.
Well, it's easy to see.
And it replaces LODs because it uses dynamic level detail. This means you can have an object with millions of polygons without any LODs because polygons dynamically deform, lowering the amount of polys on an object. A good example of nanite in use is this desert. If I come up to lit, nanite, triangles, we can see nanite in action. Every color is an individual polygon, and there are millions of them, without a single LOD being used. The biggest issue with nanite is that it did not work with foliage. This means we still have to rely on level of detail for foliage like shrubs, grass, and trees. Trees generally use billboards as the lowest level of detail, which is just...
So we've got right here, let's see where this is. So we have World of Warcraft. Well, this is actually more like RuneScape, World of Warcraft, New World, God of War, and whatever is made in Unreal 5. Yep, that's about right.
Which is just a flat plane with a texture that, as you can see, does not look very nice. Here is an example of what a billboard looks like. I have Unreal Engine 5 opened up, and in this environment, all the trees are using level of details, because that was the only option.
Yeah.
Now, if I move my camera far away, you can see that the trees change LODs until they are using billboards. And the transition looks pretty bad.
Yeah.
Notice how even the shadows disappear because billboards only block light if it's facing it. Now in Unreal Engine 5.1, we finally get nanite foliage. To enable nanite on foliage is pretty simple. You want to open up the static mesh, and within here make sure enable nanite support is turned on, and this is unique for foliage. Select preserve area. That's how if we aren't too far away, the object won't disappear. And then press apply changes. I went ahead and did the exact same process to all the trees in this environment. Now when the camera flies away, there is no LOD transitions or billboards. The trees retain the same quality as if they're being viewed up close. And the shadows do not disappear at long distances. There is no loss in performance. In fact, we gained an extra 5 frames, so it is more performant than LODs. So nanite not only looks better, it runs better in certain scenarios. Here's another example showing the power of nanite.
Oh my god, bro, this is fucking insane. Like, it's fucking scary. Oh, I'm so excited. You know what I mean? This is so cool to me. This is so fucking incredible. Why can't WoW be like this? I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea. The thing is, you know what's really crazy? Is that one day Unreal 7 will come out. That day will come. And it's like, at this point, I don't even know what that's going to be. This is it's the Matrix. Yeah, this is incredible. Wow.
This is what it looks like without nanite. The level of detail is noticeable because you can see that in the distance, the trees are just textures. Also, the lighting is casting incorrect shadows. And this
I
is
would
the
not
same
even
environment, but with nanite enabled.
They're moving
The trees
around a
far
little
away
bit. Yeah.
are no longer being faked by inaccurate textures. All the trees are real geometry that exists in the world, and we did not lose any performance.
Oh my
I wanted to
God.
push the limit of nanite foliage, so I create a forest that is 4 square kilometers. In total, there's over 100,000 trees in this environment, and I'm still getting decent performance. And as a reminder, this is all in real time. This level of density was only possible in pre-rendered movies. Also, it
Holy
makes life
fuck.
easier. We don't need several different versions of an object for LODs anymore. On top of nanite, foliage now interacts with light accurately. In real life, light passes through or bounces inside of leaves, creating subsurface scattering. Previously, this did not work with UE5's lighting, but now it does. This is foliage in Unreal Engine 5.0. Notice how the shadows are way too dark and unrealistic. And here's foliage in Unreal Engine 5.1. Now light is passing through the leaves and illuminating the ground, which looks a lot nicer.
Oh my God.
This is a subtle change, but it does make a big difference. They also added nanite landscapes, but it is feature incomplete and still in early access. Hopefully in the next version of Unreal, we get proper nanite landscapes. Of course, foliage is not the only major change. When Unreal Engine 5 released, it introduced a new lighting system called Lumen, which gave us high performance dynamic bounce lighting.
Yeah, we've
and
seen
while
this.
it was revolutionary, there was one big issue, and that is it did not work with translucent materials. So glass and water reflections were pretty much broken. It was so bad that I was recommending people to not use glass, since the reflections were completely different from the environment. Right now, I have a previous Unreal Engine version open up,
Yeah.
and this house's windows reflections make no sense. You can see that we're getting reflection from nowhere, and
It's a bit
same
weird.
thing for this glass jar.
Sure.
And this is the same environment in 5.1.
Okay.
But you will notice that there is no change yet in the reflections. And that's because we have to go into our post-process volume and under reflections, lumen reflections, make sure high quality translucency reflection is turned on. Now we get a one-to-one reflection with our environment. We can better see this in the glass cupboard. There is an accurate reflection of the room. We can even see the table and windows within that reflection. The only
Jesus Christ. What the fuck? What the fuck, man? Oh my Oh my God. Look at this. It's made by a wizard. Oh my God. Oh my fucking God. This is incredible. Wow.
We can even see the table and windows within that reflection. The only downside is that the setting does lower performance, so there is a cost, but nothing is free, and now reflections work. Water isn't broken anymore because of this new setting. Before this update, to get true reflection, we would have to use planar reflection and then manually move it to line it up with the water. Now I could just enable translucent to get realistic water reflections without having to use a reflection capture. This also fixes reflections for large bodies of water. Notice how on the side of the viewport, we have weird reflections. This is because by default, Unreal is using screen space for translucent reflections.
Oh,
so that's why we get
I
this
see.
artifact.
I see. It moves around.
And to get rid of it,
Yeah, I think the water... I feel like water is something that many games actually get incredibly right. And it's ironic to me that Unreal 5, that seems to get everything else beyond right, doesn't really seem to capture water very well.
now, just within the post-process volume, activate high-quality translucency reflection. So now we get
It looks
accurate,
better.
large body reflections without any artifacting.
Okay, that looks good, yeah.
Also, besides Lumen reflections working with glass and water, Lumen Global Illumination has seen massive improvements. Lumen now has a much more accurate bounce lighting because it is bouncing light from the object surface instead of a voxel approximation. What this means is that our environment is indirectly illuminated more and there's less noise. Right here is a simple room with a point light in the old version, and here it is in 5.1. The shadows are more illuminated, and we got rid of the weird occlusion in the corners. Here's another example of just indirect skylighting in version 5.
Okay.
And here it is in 5.1. You can tell that the secondary bounces are more accurate and powerful. And finally, there's a lot less noise when using emissive materials. In this example, there's a lot of noise when I move the light around. And here it is in 5.1, there is no noise. You can't even tell that this is real time. It looks path traced. Lumen wasn't the only lighting system that got improved. Now the path tracer supports sky and atmosphere. Just make sure in your post-process volume under path tracing, reference atmosphere is enabled. Also, path tracing now finally supports decals and light functions. For those who want to use traditional light baking, the GPU light mask has seen massive improvement. First off, the light mask works. At release, it was crashing,
Great.
but now since it is more stable, the quality of the lighting is better, and the denoiser has improved in dark areas. Also, the GPU light mask now supports sky and atmosphere right out of the box. Besides lighting, there's also an interesting change to how large Unreal levels can be. In past versions of Unreal, if you are really far away from the world of origin, Unreal Engine starts. In past versions,
God damn. This is kind of fucking scary. It's the opposite to me. Wow. I never played the Matrix demo. I never saw an overview of the whole city. At least I certainly don't remember it. Holy fuck.
of Unreal, if you are really far away from the world of origin, Unreal Engine starts to break. For example, I'm in Unreal Engine 4 and I'm very far from the origin. The widgets are starting to break apart because Unreal can't calculate what is happening that far away. Now in 5.1, the recommended area for an environment has expanded from 22 kilometers to 88 million kilometers. So as you can guess, we can create some pretty large worlds now. And finally, the last major change of note is animation with the sequencer. Animating anything in Unreal is done in the sequencer with keyframes. And if you want to move a sequence of keyframes earlier or later in the timeline, you have to select each one individually. For example, let's say maybe I want this ship to fly off earlier. What I'm going to have to do is hold down Shift and select every single keyframe and then move them back.
Yeah,
that's how when the
it's
animation
like Sony
starts,
Vegas, yeah.
the ship is already flying off. 5.1 makes this process a lot easier with layer bars, which make retiming keyframes a breeze. Instead of selecting each keyframe individually, I can select the bar as a whole, which will move all the keyframes of the object with it. So with one click, I can retime the animation, that's how it's sooner, instead of selecting all of them.
Holy fuck.
Those were all the most important major changes of Unreal Engine 5.1. Now, this was just my opinion. Of course, there are hundreds of other new features and bug
Look at that. Look at the dude. I think that the most impressive thing to me is the reflections on the glass. That is what's so fucking insane. Oh my god.
fixes. So if you are curious, I recommend you check out the release notes.
And it's like, what's so crazy to me about it is that, remember whenever Unreal 5 came out? And like, I'm sure there were a lot of people that were like, oh my god, it's just like real life. And then they come up with something that's even better. It's nuts, man. Absolutely fucking nuts. New World moving to Unreal 5.1? I wish.
The description below. If you want to keep up to date with everything Unreal Engine, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Unreal is more important than ever because half of all announced next-gen games are being made on UE5.
Yeah, I wonder why.
There's no better time to learn Unreal Engine than now. Luckily for you, I have an entire free course right here on YouTube, which goes over all the essentials to learn UE. You can check it out in the description below.
Oh my god, I cannot wait, bro. Like, this shit is just insane.
You know how?
Like, I am just...
You know how?
Just a sec. Just a sec. You talking to a chicken? Learning?
The first...
I'm telling... If this was around whenever I was a kid, I would be a game developer right now. Because I remember... So I had like a copy of Macromedia Flash, and I taught myself how to animate whenever I was like 11. And if it had this level of quality to it, that's all I would have done. Wow. I am just... Holy shit, stickman animations? That's exactly what I love to do. That's exactly it. Yes. And I remember, for example, I remember I used to animate in 12 frames per second because I was 11 and I didn't know what it was. And then I learned that you actually had to do, like that you could take it from 12 to 24 frames a second. And I remember watching something with 24 frames a second and being so fucking angry because I realized that I could never animate in 12 frames a second again because it just looked 1,000 times better. Like, there's no reason for me to ever use 12 frames, but now I have to put in way more work. You know, it's like before I could, finish like a 2-minute video in like maybe a weekend or something like this. Now it takes me like a whole weekend to do 20 seconds or something. Holy fuck, man. Could you link the video? Yeah, I'll link you guys the video. Holy fuck, this is just incredible. I'm gonna subscribe and like, dude, I love this so much. This is so fucking cool to me, man. Holy fucking shit, this is incredible. Wow. Oh my god. Look at this. This is a fucking video game, man. Wow. Wow. Unreal Sensei. I've never watched any of his content before. This is just like the trees, man. The trees. Look at this.
If they're being viewed up close. And the shadows do not disappear at long distances.
Holy fuck.
There is no loss in performance. In fact, we gained an extra 5 frames. So
Jesus, like look at the trees. Yeah, it's nuts. I would log on just to look at the trees. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. Like, it's just it's so astonishing. It's so astonishing that like this is even possible. Like, holy fuck, man. Because it's like I feel like some of these changes and everything are just so they're so monumentally different. Like, wow. I don't even know what to say. More impressive than real trees? Yeah, these trees are way better than real trees. Okay, guys, let's just be honest. Imagine what we'll have in 30 years. Yeah, that's what I tell people that are like, oh no, that's never going to happen. It's like, bro, look at video games 20 years ago and look at them now. How can you possibly fucking imagine that? Video game director answers questions from Twitter. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Glenn Schofield, artist and video game director, and I'm here to answer your questions from Twitter. This is Video Game Support.
All right. Video game support. I like this. Let's see it.
Dr. Bruce Wayne. Why do horror games scare me when horror movies don't?
Because
Laugh
you're
out
interacting
loud.
with them.
Because it's immersive.
Yeah.
You are right there. That is you. That is great to hear. Because that's what we try to do. We try and, the more we immerse you and make you feel like you're the character, the more you're going to get scared.
I like
Trust
that. That's
me,
cool.
Rusky. Bruh. Why don't startup studios just make their own
I
game
actually am very curious about this answer because I genuinely don't know why either.
engine? Like, bro, stop being lazy. Wow. Okay. Well,
hard.
my
Yeah.
teams have made plenty of engines, and they are hard. They take years and
Okay.
years, especially for the... Now,
It's a very simple answer. It's hard to do it. Okay, got it. Yeah, I like this guy.
nowadays, you need to take an old engine and rework it, but making an engine from scratch in today's market is going to take you years and millions of dollars, and you'll still get it wrong. By the
Yeah,
time
that's about right. I think that's pretty accurate. And I think like a good example of this and like even being able to get it wrong, even whenever you do successfully just take an existing engine is like, look at New World. New World is run on the Amazon engine Lumberyard, which is actually a fork of Crysis Engine. Is that right? I'm not 100% sure on this, but this is what I've read and this is my understanding. Yes. It's a dog shit engine. Yeah, and so even they get it wrong. With the fork.
time I got to EA, you know, they had a lot of different engines around. We were starting to build one. We were for Lord of the Rings, and I don't know. They were about a year into it. I said, "What are we doing? We're 2 years away." So we looked around, and we got creative. Lord of the Rings is about large areas,
Oh,
and then
dude, is that the fucking Two Towers game? Oh my god. I played the fucking shit out of that. Wow. That was so
sort
good.
of a castle on
Not
the
Two
end,
Towers.
or something.
I think it's probably Return of the King. Whenever you think, because like Gandalf the White is not really in the Two Towers that much, in like any combat, except for like the end scene.
Fortress. What's like that?
Yes, Return of the King.
Tiger Woods. Long areas, and at the end is where you go get food, where you're done.
Yeah.
And so we took the Tiger Woods engine and turned that into the Lord of the Rings engine.
Yeah.
You just have to be smart about what you do and what you use for an engine.
Makes sense.
Farrah game doinks. I'm sure I got that wrong. What steps do I need to take to be a video game director? Because I feel like I can be the video game Spielberg. Good for you. That's confidence. To
I
be
like
a
that.
video game director, you're going to have to move up the ranks. You got to learn the inside and outside of video games. So you just can't come in and do it. No way. You got to have a lot of knowledge. You can come up in many different ways. I came up through the art field. You know, I started as an artist in video games.
Makes sense.
I've seen people come up as from producers. You're going to need experience. You're going to need to know everything about the video game. I don't need to know the technology, but I need to understand it. And it's changing.
That's kind of why I was telling you guys that I never really wanted to make a video game, because I don't know how to code. Like, I've taken, like, one class on how to code. Well, actually, like, two, technically. But, like, I don't know how to code. I can barely read basic code.
Every game, so you just can't jump in. I'm sorry. At Desemporium, do horror game creators get scared of their own creation sometimes?
I'm sure.
No. What happens really is that after a while, you've played the game so many times, you don't know if it's scary or not. If in the beginning, the first time that, I say, hey, let's
That's probably true. Holy shit. Yeah, he's probably right about that.
do this
Damn.
here. And if the
That makes
first
sense.
time I see it, I jump or I get scared, then I know it's good. Hold on, I've got something.
Okay.
So this is Two Head from the Callisto Protocol.
Okay.
I'm sure that the first time you see him, you will be very scared. We went through a lot of iterations to get to this. He's morphed into two heads, and you can actually blow off
he's in my
either
chat.
side, and one head will fall off, and he'll still be coming at you with half his body.
I like that.
So he's pretty scary, and he's really hard to kill. At Mama Leyoshi, why are video games $60? Why are they all $60? Who agreed on that? I don't know who agreed on all that. I surely didn't. I think that it's the console guys who come up with the cost, but
Yeah, that's how it was. Because for the longest fucking time, you got to keep in mind, like, most games for Super Nintendo were like $40 or $50. Like, if you're getting like Super Mario RPG or something like that, that was $50. But if you're getting just like your random ass game, I don't know, like the Goof Troop game or something like that, it's like $40. Then they went up to $50 in the GameCube era, where $50 was pretty much the standard price, and there was only a handful of them that were $40. And then in the Xbox 360 era, we saw things go all the way up to $60. I remember I bought Doom 3 for $60.
there may be some of the publishers have something to do with it, but I got to be honest with you. They've been like $50, $60 for, what, a decade? Something like that?
Is he about to say the thing that I've been saying?
In which time games have doubled or quadrupled in cost.
Wow. I feel very validated right now. I feel very, very fucking validated right now. Wow. What a surprise. Who could have... Yeah, it's obvious. The thing is, yes, I'm not a fucking genius for thinking of this. It's fucking obvious. Yeah, everyone with a brain knows that? Yeah, that's why everybody in chat was disagreeing with me whenever I said it. Yeah, I know. I didn't understand. Everybody was like, getting gaslighted or something about this. Like, how the fuck are people saying this isn't real?
and the price hasn't gone up. And you can see the difference between a PlayStation 2 game and a PlayStation 5 game, and you're almost paying the same price. Man, I don't want to put the cost on the fan. I don't, but they're expensive to make.
Well, they do put the cost on the fan, but it's voluntary. That's why they have battle passes and they have microtransactions. Microtransactions and battle passes are how these companies have bridged the gap because the price is inelastic. People will simply not pay $90 for a video game. This will not happen. So because it doesn't happen, then they have to find other ways to make money with the games outside of the actual box cost.
They really are. At Spirit Destiny, how do you write a video game script? Well, it's pretty complex. I don't consider myself a writer. I consider myself a storyteller. So I'll write 20 pages or something on what this game was. And once I have a story and I've talked everybody sort of into it and through it and whatever, we bring on our writers. The next 2-3 years, the writers are working with me and they're writing the script. And they're adding the characters and things like that. So it is a long process because a video game is pretty long, 10, 12, 13 hours, something like that. So the scripts are big. They change a lot because this is about gameplay and something might not be fun. We leave a lot of room for change. At C. Cattell, who makes up these game ratings? Comic Mischief? Come on, really? I don't have a problem with the game's ratings. It seems like most games that deserve an M get an M. I've never had a problem with a games rating. I think maybe in the early days we had...
The only problem that I ever had with game ratings is that I think that games with gambling purchases should not be marketed as like teen or E for everyone games. I think that like if your game has gambling purchases or gotcha in it, then it should be an adults only game. Period. No questions asked.
Had one, a
Other
problem
than that,
with
yes,
one
I think
in
they're
Europe,
very fair.
and we worked on that in one of the European countries. But at the end of the day, we talked them into what it should be. I don't have a problem with it. Now, but the critic scores, oh boy, I could talk to you all day about that.
Yeah, I bet.
Aika 95. I never knew that motion capture process also included with voice acting recording. Or do they record that separately and then a lip mimic on motion
Probably
capture?
depends on the budget.
There's another process called performance capture, or what we call PCAP. And that's actually where we capture the voice acting. On motion capture, it's really just about the movements. The fidelity isn't the same as performance capture, which are big stages that we actually have to go down to Hollywood to do. There's only a couple down there, so we go down to the Sony one. And here's an example of us getting the motion of a kill scene.
Okay.
Primo dodges, he strikes to the legs, which swipes him out. He comes up, cracks, splits the head open.
Right, okay. We don't really do the lips or the voice here on motion capture, but we'll get 75% of the moves for the game, at least.
My hot take on this is that none of this shit matters at all. Motion capture for video games does not matter. As long as it's cool. It's like, for example, like, did they use motion capture for fatalities in Mortal Kombat whenever it came out? No, they fucking didn't. They just came up with some stuff that looked really, really cool. I don't think that it matters for a lot of players. It is something that has a lot of value. Yes, they did. Wait, no way they did. You mean like the original Mortal Kombat? No way. What the fuck? I didn't even know that. That's not motion capture? Yeah, if that's true, like, holy fuck. Yeah, I'll have to look at that afterwards. They mean reference for animations? The old uses real footage. Okay. Wow.
In the motion.
I guess, like, to me, I don't really place a lot of value in this. I think it's like something that studios spend too much money on. It's something that, like, to me as a player, it doesn't really increase my value of the game, or like the value of the game to me, as much as it probably costs.
Capture Studio. At Tressa Amoru. Sorry. I'm not good at making scary things. How do horror games come up with the most unnerving stuff? Play a lot of scary games, watch a lot of movies. If you're passionate about anything,
That
right,
makes sense.
you're going to get into it. You're going to be studying it. You're going to be absorbed in it for years. I've been like a sci-fi horror fan since I was really young. I'm constantly thinking about it, constantly have ideas in my head. So, I know I have some. But for us, I put it out to the team. We got 200 people. They're gonna come up with ideas. I'm always asking them for ideas because it's not about my ideas always getting in the game. It's about the best ideas getting in the game. I don't care where it comes from. So we're constantly asking the team and having brainstorming meetings and doing things like that. Because the second part,
That's good to hear.
And how do the creators of them not scare the shit out of themselves when looking at their own assets? Sometimes I got to tell you, like with the gore system that we have in our new game, the first time I saw some of that stuff, I was shocked.
Yeah.
Not necessarily scared, but I was really psyched because I'm like, that's brand new. Haven't seen that. That's going to gross people out, especially on the latest platforms. I mean, consoles, man, this stuff looks amazing. At Two Fool, why are video games important? Video games are...
They're entertainment, right? I mean, I don't know. Why does something have to be important? They're not important to a lot of people, right?
I think incredibly important. They are an art form. It's entertainment.
Yes.
It's a social network. They're just, part of pop culture now. They are part of our world. Video games are bigger than movies and music combined, doubled.
That is
They're that
crazy.
huge. I also think that they're the next medium. We're already doing it to tell a great story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at video games and the difference between where they were 10 years ago and where they are today. A huge jump. We're always working on next technology. What's the next thing?
Yeah.
Movies, which I love, 10 years ago to today, it's not a big leap, right?
Well,
But
there has been a big leap, but it's been backwards.
video games are constantly changing. That's one of the hardest things about making them, but it's also one of the funnest things.
Yeah.
At X24 Sonic, it's a long one. How the do you design levels? Like in a survival horror game building, how do you decide which rooms are locked or empty and what order the player will go through them? How do you come up with the layout and progression? Because I don't know where to start. That could take me all day to answer, but we start out with a paper idea, a paper map. We have software now that we can lay it out
like
pretty
Dungeons
quickly.
and Dragons.
And we move things around
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And this is done by the designers. So the designers are laying out the gameplay. When people look at it and go, hey, that looks pretty good, we don't know yet, but we think it looks good. We'll then go into our engine and we lay it out in blocks. We call it Block World. Very simple mesh. We put a character in and we run through it. If we like that, we then have the artists look at it because designer is just looking at fun. So sometimes they'll have a hallway go into a bathroom and the bathroom have a second door that goes into a bedroom. So we have to get it right. The artist will go in and make sure architecturally the building is correct and tell them we have to rework it a bit. As far as which ones are locked and which ones are empty and everything, that comes with the gameplay. That's usually probably 50% is got on your paper map over the course of making a level. And making a level can take 2 years because you're working on it, iterating, putting the enemies in. So it takes a long time. These things change. At Angelo's End, why are the simplest games always the best? I hear what you're saying, but I don't necessarily agree.
I think that there's a lot of games that are good that are simple, but there's a lot of games that are good that are complex too. It depends on the way the game is. Like, for example, playing tic-tac-toe is good, but so is playing Monopoly. Monopoly is way more complex than tic-tac-toe. Vampire Survivors or something like that. But there are complicated games. It's just different types of games for different people, I would say. It's like saying that, comedy movies are better than action movies or something like that.
Some of the simplest games are great, right? It's easy to get in, easy to understand, and you don't have a lot of startup time, right, to get into it. You know, Rocket League and even Call of Duty to an extent is easy to get into these days.
Compared to,
I mean, it's
like,
hard to play against a lot of people, but
It seems like Tarkov.
I like games that take not a long time to get into it, but they build up the mechanics a bit.
Yeah.
Takes a little while, and you're learning the story and all. So I'm not always about the simplest game, but I understand what you're saying. At Jeff Whitmore 1, what is the scare?
I think they're also like very appealing to a large audience. A simple game can attract more people because there's less of a barrier to entry.
Scariest video game ever? Very good question. And I'm sure a lot of people have different answers, but mine has got to be one of the Silent Hills, probably Silent Hill 2. I mean, when that horn went off and I knew Pyramid Head was coming at me, I just ran. And that was terrifying. Or you're in the fog, your little Geiger counter goes off and you knew something was around you. Just really frightening. So, great game. Scared the heck out of me. I wish they would make more. Portable G. Some great names here. What makes a good horror game? Well, obviously one that you keep wanting to go through it, right? Because you know you're going to get scared, but if you want to play the whole thing, that's a good horror game. But what makes it good? Well, I think story is important. I think story will pull you through, right? Obviously, tension.
I think with horror games, like, yeah, story and tension are probably the most important thing. Like, I've actually never really played a horror game, so I'm just guessing. But it seems to me like that's the point where I would, like, really focus and, like, really worry.
And sound,
you know, it's like the tension of it. I hate tension.
Not being frustrated. That is a fine line when we're making a game. You know, we can make something that kills you 10 times, but you'll just throw your controller and blame us. But if you die like 3 times, you're kind of blaming yourself, and you want to get through it again. So we are really careful about how hard you make it. We get analytics and watch people play and all sorts of things. So we don't want you too frustrated. Somebody said to me once, they're like, what I loved about Dead Space was that every level I knew you were going to show me something new and exciting and different, whether it scared me or not, and I couldn't put it down. At Adele Pinot Music, how important is sound design for a video game? Wow.
Well, I've played Warzone. I'll tell you one thing, it's pretty fucking important. Whenever you don't have it, it sucks. It's very important. It depends on the game, though.
Right up my alley. Especially for a horror game. Sound design and music and everything else is 50% of the game, right? It's 50% of the horror. I consider music and audio in a horror game a feature. It's a mechanic. It's that important. And, you know, for all my other video games, I've been sitting in the booths with the audio directors for 20 years. It's that important to me. But in a horror game, it's a mechanic. Let's say you're doing a machine. Well, for a scary game, the machine should sound scary.
Yeah.
And so we make sure that everything we kind of put in, even though it's relatable, it's going to have a weird or an off-putting sound. And then we get the music in. And when I say music, it's not music as you know. I mean, it's scary. It's got weird instruments. Sometimes it gets a little abstract. And the whole idea here is to add that tension. And that's the key to a horror game, because then you can make your scares much better and much bigger because they're already sort of tense. And then at that point, when we do a scare, what we call a stinger. Here's an example of a stinger from the Callisto Protocol. It's got to be on point. It's got to be right there, right on the money, or it's not going to be good. So we spent a lot of time getting the timing right. At 214 DJ.
I wonder if I would actually get scared playing a scary game. I don't really, I remember I watched like a couple of scary movies before. I just never really watched scary movies or play scary games. So I have no idea.
YTF, is Elden Ring so hard, bruh? Well, I guess that's subjective, but yeah, from what I hear, I haven't played it, right? Pretty busy right now with this video game.
You haven't played Elden Ring? Oh my god! Is this what it's like whenever people have a job? Jesus! I can't believe that! Get good? Yeah, I mean, I'm actually curious what this answer is going to be. I need to use the bathroom. I'll be right back. Just give me a second.
More What I hear, yes, it's very hard. But that's sort of what's going on in the video game industry right now. And I've seen it go up and down over the years. Sometimes they get a little bit easier and then they get a little bit harder. We're going through that period right now. And matter of fact, we're going to make ours pretty tough too. I just think it's sort of that point in video games, and just keep playing. You'll get through it.
I think that's probably true. Like, a lot of people want to have more difficult games. I think that's more of a focus nowadays, especially because like there's like more of a focus on like streaming and like also seeing other people play the games. And whenever you're watching somebody play a game and the game has no stakes on it because it's just so easy, then yeah, I think it makes it less engaging.
At TDSN 19, how well does the finger mocap work? Well, I have one right here. It's awesome. We used to have to animate the fingers, and it was a lot of work. You know, you've mocap the whole thing, then you got to go in because the hands got to look right. They got to grip the guns. They got to grip this. They got to punch. They've saved us a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of headaches. Well worth their money, and they work great. At Nick Gay.
I find it so fucking funny that whenever I was saying how mocap isn't that big of a deal for like games, I used the game that was the first game to use mocap. I can't believe that. Yeah, I looked at it. Yeah. Mortal Kombat was like the first one. Holy shit, man.
Stage 1. I always wonder, how long does motion capture usually take to finish? By having a motion capture stage here at Striking Distance Studios, we're able to capture motion every day. If we need to get a run, we can do a run in the morning. By the afternoon, the run is in the game. Might need a little tweak here and there, or maybe something to get it from one end.
So I'm assuming like the different points on the motion capture, they're effectively like they're like points on the skeleton of the model that's ported into the game. Like that's basically what it is? Yeah.
To the other, we do it in real time, and then we just take that motion and we put it in game. So it's really quick, and that's what makes quality for us. Being here in the studio gives us the ability to have quality because we can do something over and over and over again. And the key to video games is iteration. That's All crazy. Things Horror, what is your favorite?
It's like, it's crazy to think that can actually save money and save time. But whenever you think about it and you understand how it works, it makes sense.
Monster design in a video game. Is there any obscure ones you think deserve more praise? Okay. Wow, I have seen some great ones. I mentioned Pyramid Head before. Pyramid Head is just...
I think Guinevere in Dark Souls 1. Yeah. If I could think of any video game model, like really good one, yeah, that would be my favorite.
Weird, right? And so I gotta hand it to them for that one. I like Nemesis from Resident Evil. I mean, Resident Evil over the years has had some really good ones, but I think I'm gonna stick with those two for now. At Big Ass Luigi, how the hell do game physics work? Do you have to give the program the formula for gravity or what? I'm not an engineer, I'm an artist. But yes, we've been working with physics for, 20, 30 years now.
What the fuck?
So game physics, some of that is when the character falls, they hit the ground, right? That's got to look good, and that's game physics in itself. That is a huge thing that we have in games, and it's very expensive. That's why sometimes when a character is dead on the ground, you go to kick them, they don't move in some games, because if they move, you're talking about just using up performance and things like that. So that's why you see that. Okay. The formula for gravity, we don't have to do that. Now, Zero G, which we had in one of my games, Dead Space, we had to stake it because you're floating around, and that took a lot of work. It was like when we have to do swimming and put them in water.
That's a good point. There's very few games that actually do swimming in a way that's not fucking annoying. I think one of the only games that didn't annoy the shit out of me whenever it had swimming was Sekiro. I remember the Sekiro swimming was pretty good.
It had to feel something like that. I'll
Echo
tell
the
you
dolphin.
one of the secrets of Dead Space was, when you're in zero G, you're kind of moving differently. Well, we put it in what we thought was real zero G timing. It started feeling sluggish. So what we did was we gave it the same amount of speed as the regular walk, but we made the animation look slower. And so we never got that sluggishness, and no one ever knew that it was the same size, same speed. No one ever got back to us. At Hannah Marif, can someone explain to me why I get actual anxiety when I'm playing a video game? As if I might be shot in real life.
Right?
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen, Hannah. The anxiety is, of course, you don't want to die. You don't want to, have to start over. Everybody, whatever you've accumulated, whether it's going through the level or, upgrades and stuff.
What she means is, like, obviously, like, all these questions are in the context of a scary game. And what she means is, like, whenever I'm playing a scary game, why do I feel like I'm the person who it's happening to?
Want to lose that. You've earned that. So I think that's part of it. In a horror game, the anxiety is what we want you to have all throughout it. Anxiety and tension, because
I love how the answer is like, why do you get anxiety? Because that's what we're trying to give you. That's why. We just did it. We win.
then we can scare you more.
Yeah,
So
we just
that is
won.
something that we try and manufacture. If a game isn't manufacturing it like on purpose, like we are, it just comes from not wanting to start over, not wanting to go to a checkpoint, not wanting to die, I think.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the questions for today.
Really good.
I appreciate you sending them in, and I hope you learned something.
Yeah, that was actually pretty good. Wow. Q&A was full of imbecile questions? No, I think that they were totally fine, man. Yeah, I liked the videos. I'll link to you guys for the video itself. Yeah, I feel like those were some interesting questions, and, you know, I think there were some good answers, too.